Welcome back to Sunday Night Spookies, the podcast dedicated to exploring the mysterious and the spooky unknown. My name is Lex.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is episode 19, our on-location investigation of National House Inn in Marshall, Michigan.
So if you missed it, on Halloween night of this year, we did a live stream. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like an hour long. And we did a poll of where we should go. And this is the one that won. And so the Facebook Live is still on the Facebook. And I'll link it when I post about this episode. I'll link the video so you guys can watch it. It was pretty cool. We got a lot more evidence after the live stream. And we're not going to talk about the portion of the live stream. Any evidence that we got in the live stream was caught on camera. Mm-hmm. We discussed it in the moment. So if you want to know what evidence we did catch, you have to go watch the live stream. Sorry.
On our Facebook, the Sunday Night Spookies podcast. Check it out. If you watched the live stream, you know that we didn't get a whole lot on the live stream. And I think that's because we made a grave error. Normally, when we use any type of equipment, we usually explain to any entities that are in the area how to use that equipment. Mm-hmm. This time we did not do that. So after the live stream, we explained how to use those things.
Yeah.
And then we got stuff.
Yeah. And it's weird because the first couple investigations we did for the podcast specifically, we didn't do that. And we still got stuff. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until a few investigations ago that we realized when we do our opening, like, only spirits of light and love, we're opening communication, whatever. If we explain, like, this is a spirit box, this is what it does, it doesn't hurt you, it's not scary, we found that seemingly gets us more results.
Ramps it up.
Makes sense. I'm not going to walk up to a machine and screw with it if I don't know what it does.
Well, that, and then we have to remember that the people that we're talking to likely were not alive at the time that even any type of technology, like maybe computers. Yeah. But even computers are
not that old in retrospect.
No, right. But I mean, if we're talking to somebody in the early 1900s, they probably don't know much about what we're using.
Yeah. For future reference, if you hear us be like, this is what this does, this is this, it's for the ghosties.
Yeah, because they don't know.
Yeah, and if we sound like idiots, then we sound like idiots. But so far, we've felt like it's gotten us more evidence.
Yeah, it's worked for us thus far. So we talked about this a little bit in the live stream, but we've got the history of both Marshall, Michigan and the National House Inn. So we're going to jump into Marshall, Michigan first. It was founded in 1830 and was named for the sitting U.S. Chief Justice John Marshall. And it was the first of many American cities and counties named for the legendary jurist. Shortly after its founding, the thriving town was expected to become the capital of Michigan, but lost to Lansing in 1847. As a major stop on the stagecoach route and then the switching center for the powerful Michigan Central Railroad, Marshall continued its fast-paced growth through the Civil War era. The 19th century also saw Marshall make history in abolition, education, and organized labor. Adam Crosswhite was an escaped slave who arrived in Marshall with his family in 1844. In 1846, slave hunters from Kentucky appeared on his doorstep, attempting to arrest him and take him and his family back to Kentucky. An alarm was sounded, and more than 100 citizens turned out to intervene. The next morning, the runaway slaves slipped out of town en route to Canada. The organizers of Marshall's group of slave protectors was prosecuted and paid fines of $1,925. It's said that this incident was one of three that led to the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 and a prelude to the Civil War. Adam Crosswhite and some family members were buried in Oak Ridge Cemetery near his rescuers. In 1835, two early Marshall residents, Isaac Crary and John Pierce, developed a public school system for Michigan, which became a model throughout the country. Pierce became Michigan's first state superintendent of education, and that was like the first one in the country. The country's oldest railroad union was founded in Marshall in 1863. In the 1870s, the city emerged as a hub of the Midwest patent medicine business. Then the 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act effectively killed off patent medicine products. Industrial operations also played an important role in Marshall's early development. Some notable Marshall residents, there's quite a few. I have not heard of most of them, but apparently they are notable. One is Harold C. Brooks. He took control of the Brooks Rupture Appliance from his father in 1912. He's responsible for saving more than 12 historical buildings in Marshall. also Mary Stallings Coleman, and she became the first female justice of the Michigan Supreme Court in 1973.
That seems late for that.
That sure does. There's William Wallace Cook, and he was a famed dime novelist with such series as Buffalo Bill, Deadeye Dick, and Nick Carter. And also Charles Dickey, and he was appointed as a U.S. Marshal in 1861 and served as a bodyguard for Lincoln's inaugurations and at the Gettysburg Address. Mm-hmm. And Charles Dickey, our room that we stayed in, was named after Charles Dickey.
And that one, if you are interested in staying, that is supposed to be the most active room there.
Active it was.
Yeah, did not disappoint. So I have some history of the actual inn that I'm going to read off my phone because I didn't put it on my notes. So
it's fine.
The National House Inn Bed and Breakfast on Marshall's picturesque Fountain Circle is the oldest operating hotel in the state of Michigan. It has been designated as a state historical site and is also listed on the National Registry of Historical Places. The inn was built in 1835 by Colonel Andrew Mann, who used lumber from the Ketchum sawmill and bricks that were molded and fired on the site to construct what has endured as the oldest brick building in Calhoun County. And it's, like you said, believed to be a stop in the Underground Railroad. The website says, located 2 dusty days and nights by stagecoach from Detroit, the National House served as a welcome halfway haven for early travelers on their way to Chicago. With the arrival of the Michigan Central Railroad in 1844, the inn's fortunes became closely tied to the Iron Horse, and its function for the next 30 years was that of a railroad hotel. In 1878, having gone through several owners and changes of name, the National House Inn closed its doors as a hotel, the victim of dining cars and pullman sleepers. At the time, the building was converted to a factory devoted to the manufacture of windmills and farm wagons. In 1902, the building was purchased by Dr. Dean, a local veterinarian, who remodeled the National House into 8 luxury apartments. As Dean's Flats, the inn passed the first 3/4 of the 20th century, gradually falling into misuse and disrepair. By 1976, it was clear that something had to be done. Help arrived in the form of dedicated restorationists, Norm and Catherine Kinney, and Hall and Jack Minnick. As a bicentennial gift to the community, they proposed to restore the National House to its original purpose, that of a quaint country inn. Through hard work, imagination, and volunteer efforts from the Friends in Marshall, it reopened for business on Thanksgiving of 1976, and today the current owners continuously upgrade and renovate this nationally recognized bed and breakfast. So one thing I want to point out right now is that when we stayed there, the hospitality was incredible.
Yeah, oh yes.
We had the best time. Mm-hmm. I remember that we were just going through evidence and we got to the point where the night innkeeper was like going through and like turning off lights. Mm-hmm. And we were sitting in one of the lobby areas on the 2nd floor and
late.
It was like almost midnight, past midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the spirit box going. We had headphones in to listen to it because it's loud, out loud.
In paper thin walls.
Yeah. And she like immediately stopped and was like, "Are you guys okay? Do you need anything? Can you turn that light off when you're done?"
Right. No rush.
No rush.
Just,
are you enjoying your stay? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. And when we checked in,
the lady greeted us like old friends.
Yeah. She was just thrilled that we were here.
Yeah.
She gave us a personal tour of the entire downstairs. Mm-hmm. Like it was.
Walked us to our room.
Well, yeah, walked us to our room. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Best service.
We'll be back even just for service. Just like...
Because it's such a cute... And I'm going to post a bunch of pictures that we took, but it's beautiful. And they had it decorated for Halloween. It was so cool. Mm-hmm. Right when you walk in, there's giant wooden beams on the ceiling that are all original. The whole thing's original.
Mm-hmm. The huge fireplace.
But it was amazing. There's like chairs to sit in front of this huge fireplace. And the innkeeper, when we checked in, was like, "We turned this on at this time. Come down and enjoy the fire." Like,
and there's fresh puffed popcorn at this time.
Yeah, we got candy bags and popcorn because it was Halloween.
The popcorn did not have butter or salt. That was my
free.
only complaint. Free popcorn, but it tasted like cardboard.
Yeah.
But they tried.
But we ate it. So
we ate it. We are who we are.
But yeah, we're definitely going to go back. Not only because we got such cool evidence that we need more, but because it was just it's just a nice getaway, and it wasn't that expensive.
No. Mm-mm. Same price as a hotel.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, but much better experience.
Oh, yeah.
much better experience. Just like the atmosphere and everything was so nice.
Especially if you're into old buildings.
Mm-hmm. If you're a history buff like I am, it was so cool to be there.
So, speaking of old buildings, you might have heard our little clip at the beginning of the episode before our intro music. That was the sound of me unlocking the door, or attempting to unlock the door. I'm not good at unlocking doors, apparently. So I fumbled a little bit, but our room had a lock and key.
A very old lock and key. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And we saved a couple of clips from us walking around so that we could tell you just how old this place was. Mm-hmm. You can hear the floor creaking.
Yeah, and there's no sneaking around in this building.
No. You couldn't tiptoe and make no noise in there. I'm convinced you could be a feather.
Yep, and still make noise. And the stairs are the worst part. They creaked so loud.
Even you could go slow and dainty.
Yeah, well, there was one part where it was like around midnight or a little bit before where we wanted to go downstairs and do some EVP downstairs. And I was like scared that I was going to wake everybody up and everyone was going to be like, making too much noise. And we're like, people are going to complain about us walking around.
Right, every step.
Yeah.
Or louder.
Louder.
So I'm going to insert those clips for you here so you can appreciate just how
noisy it was.
Noisy. So after the live stream, we were famished.
Yeah.
So we were looking up places near us to eat, and there was very few options, I would say.
It was, it's a small, like, what did you say, the Gilmore Girls town? I can't even...
Stars Hollow.
So my mom's going to kill me for not remembering that. I'm so sorry, Mom.
It's a 4-corner town. It's a very... Okay, to be fair, it was 2 blocks.
2 blocks, yeah.
There is a giant roundabout in the middle. So we looked up places to eat, and we ended up... I don't even think we decided when we left. I think we were just like, let's just walk and pick somewhere. Mm-hmm. And we saw a place that had a very basic sign that said Mike's Place on it.
Yep, that's it.
And so...
That was it.
That's where we went. And it was a bar.
Yeah. And the food was freaking delicious.
Mm-hmm. Classic bar food. Very good.
Drinks were good.
The drinks were...
Strong
and excellent.
But good.
Bartender was cool.
Yeah, he was asking... Rewind. He asked us what we were doing there.
And I don't know what to say, because some people think that we're freaks.
Yeah.
And some people think that we're really cool.
And we kind of laughed, and we said, well, and he goes... Oh.
Like, okay.
So it was, I don't know what he was inferring.
Me either.
But we're like, no. We're ghost investigation. We're doing a ghost investigation. And he goes, oh. And then he was
so
like, really,
cool. Yeah.
He was talking to us about it. And he was like, yeah, I heard some cool stories about that place. And so he was really cool. Shout out to that guy. I don't know his name, but.
He gave us some bags of Halloween candy.
He did, yeah.
And that was pretty cool. After that, we went back to the inn.
Mm-hmm. And then it was time to get to work.
And yes, tipsy or not, it was time.
The first thing we did was set up the Connect. And we were not disappointed.
Absolutely not.
I think I've already posted a picture of it to our Instagram, like a screenshot of the video. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna post a clip, obviously, when this episode goes out. But we got activity on the Connect for 20 minutes straight.
A pair of figures.
20 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. We've never had anything show up in the Connect and stay for that long. Ever.
No. And normally if we move the Connect around or we like fidget with something around the figure, sometimes it'll disappear. Did not happen this time.
No, we did all of the debunking.
If you saw the picture on Instagram, you know that there was a figure in the chair that we had set up in the middle of the room, and also a figure by the robes.
And the figure by the chair showed up first, I want to say.
I'm pretty sure about it.
Full disclosure, when we started, we had stuff in the chair. We had like a bag and a coat hanging over the chair. Mm-hmm. And then in the Instagram, you can see that there was like robes hanging and hangers where the other figure was standing. So that's how that started. And then throughout the 20 minutes, we are moving the Connect. We move the stuff off the chair. We move the robes. We take everything down. You move in front of it and behind it. And they didn't disappear. We found out that the Connect can only track 2 active players.
That is the key to life that we found out. We Googled it while we were there because you could see the 2 figures on the screen, and then when I would come into frame, it would map me, but where the other one was before, there was 1 green dot.
Yeah, it was like a green, almost like a loading circle, if you're like on a website or something. But as soon as you would leave frame, it would pop back up again.
Right. And so we Googled, and the Kinect can only map 2 active players. It can recognize when 6 people are in the screen, but if you do that, it'll only be just that little green loading circle.
Yeah, so it's tracking the most moving, the most active players, which is interesting to note because the figure in the chair never left because it was moving.
Yeah.
The whole time. It was so strange because I had the laptop where I was like watching this on the bed and you were standing next to it and I was recording with my phone. But I got to watch this thing fidget, touch its head, move its hands, move its arms. And
uncross its legs.
Uncross its legs. And the one time that you went behind it to move the ropes for debunkability, literally, cross my heart, hope to die. This thing uncrossed its legs and turned, just kind of like how if you're sitting on a chair and someone's behind you and you turn your body to look at them, moved its arms across its body, turned, leaned, and watched you, and then literally as you were coming back out from behind it over to the side, it moved with you to watch you.
Yep.
And
we have that recorded.
I don't think I've ever been so close to throwing up during an investigation.
Because, it was so concrete. And it wasn't even like me walking through it or anything that was altering it.
Because you were being mapped as well.
Yep.
Wild. So flippin' wild. I'm gonna cut that video and post it on the social media.
Probably multiple. It's really...
Yeah. Well, just like we did with the state hospital, we made a Facebook album for all of the stuff. I'm gonna do that with this as well because there's so much.
So much even besides the Kinect.
So much.
As I was moving things around the room, taking the robes off the wall, kind of like pitter-pattering around.
Debunking.
Yes. Debunking everything there was to debunk. I stood next to the figure in the chair, and instantly the right side of my body was frozen. Completely frozen. And we did put the EMF detector up to my arm because it checks temperature. It only dropped, I think, a degree.
Yeah, it was flickering between, because over by me on the bed, which was at the other end of the room, it's not a big room, but by me it was a solid 70. It did not flicker at all when it was next to me. When you had the EMF over by you in the chair, it was flickering and it would drop down to a degree, stay there for a minute, flicker, drop down, whatever.
Right. And a degree isn't much. Like, I don't think it's enough to call it a cold spot. I don't know what like the definition of a cold spot is, but I was cold. That side of my body was cold.
And it could also be the fact that they are an energy. And if you're in a spot that has particularly high EMF energy or frequencies, you'll get goosebumps and your body will react to that. So I'm almost wondering if, because
my body was reacting to its energy as opposed to
the cold
being cold.
It could manifest as being cold.
Right. But like, I know what you mean. I will insert a clip of me talking about it right here. Is the chair one still there?
Yeah.
I want to... No. My arm is cold. My right arm is cold.
It's left arm.
My right arm is noticeably chilly. Like, on my mom. My right arm is chilly.
Can you reach out and touch Lex's hand?
Plot twist, the figure did not reach for my hand. I did, like, outreach my hand, like, palm out to see if it would reach for my hand. It did not, according to our video.
One thing that we did notice, though, is the figure that sat in the chair, and it sat in the chair the whole time. It didn't move. It would fidget around in the chair, was considerably smaller than the figure that was standing. And you can see that on our Instagram pictures as well. And throughout the beginning, before we started messing with stuff and moving stuff around and trying to debunk it, it would look as if it was peering up to the other figure. Kind of like how we described it turning in its chair to look at you when it was going behind, when you were going behind it. It would, because there's not really a head on these figures.
There's a dot where the head it's at the top of the neck, I would say.
Right, and you can see the stick part of the stick figure, like the jut where the neck would be, kind of tilt. And it, like, the shoulders would shift.
Yep.
And so it to me, and to us in the moment, it looked like it was shifting back to look at the other dude. Because, like, on the camera, the figure was slightly behind, but more beside the figure in the chair. And And I think we were asking if it was a child or if it was like the partner of the one standing. And our next clip is actually us talking about and reacting to it moving in the chair, because we couldn't believe it. Like, it was insane.
Very organic movements from something
as stick figure-y as it.
Right.
Oh, it's twisting in its chair.
It's because of me.
It looks like it's turned, like, looking up where that skeleton was. Like, it's, like, you can, like, if I was to turn diagonally in a chair and, like, look up at somebody, that's how it looks. Because it's turned.
Yeah, it looks like they left. We'd love it if you stayed with us. You might have heard me in that clip say, oh, it looks like they left, like the taller stick figure. But we want to note that that's because we didn't know yet that it could only map 2 active players.
And you were in frame moving at that point. So that's why we say, oh, it looks like they left.
Yep.
So we also started hearing noises coming from the bathroom. And it was like breathy, like... noises from the bathroom. Very, very faint. We didn't have a spirit box or EMF going or anything.
The toilet hadn't just flushed.
Right.
The water was not running.
And then a few minutes later, we both at the same time heard somebody like tapping on the porcelain sink. Oh, we have porcelain right here.
I have a porcelain something, a cup. It sounded like...
Yeah.
I hope that really registers. Hang on, I'm doing it.
Here, I'll do it with my nails.
Yeah. It sounded like something.
It was
knocking.
more faint, but...
Yeah, something knocking on the porcelain. Like, we both were like, did you
hear that? So, I don't know. And the figure that was being mapped, that was standing, was right outside the bathroom door.
Yep.
So, don't know if they're related, but interesting timing and placement.
Yeah. It's something notable.
So, like I said, these figures went on for 20 minutes. And I think we were in the middle of moving the stuff from the chair. The figure remained in the chair while we were moving stuff. And then we started to hear people in the hallway, which was very interesting because beginning of this episode, you hear all of our creaks. And
it was not a step without a creak.
You couldn't take any kind of step in that place without the whole building knowing you were moving around. What's interesting about this is we didn't hear, and all of the doors were creaky. It was all loud, whatever. We never once heard and our room was right outside of our room was the steps down. We didn't hear people come up the steps. We didn't hear a door open. We didn't hear a door unlock. We didn't hear anybody taking any kind of steps until our 20 minutes was like nearing its end and we were debunking or whatever. And as soon as we heard people in the hallway, our figures disappeared.
Yep. Vanished. Like instant. It was like we heard something. We looked at the door, looked at the computer, gone. And maybe somebody was saying, because like we were being obvious about like, oh, we see you on our Connect, and like we were being obvious that it was like, if I am partial to ghost shows and whatnot, but if I heard that coming from a hotel room, like they're doing a ghost investigation, right?
So we either think somebody was like listening to us, or
there was plaques outside of every single room because each room was named after somebody that was like known to be in Marshall, is what I kind of gathered from it. And there was plaques that gave history about that person or about the room or about the inn. And so we read a couple when we were walking around. So maybe somebody was going around and reading plaques, but we didn't hear them approach.
So they had to have been there for at least 30 minutes.
A while. Because
it took 20 minutes. We recorded 20 minutes of those figures on the Connect. But it took us 10 minutes to set everything up and get started and get going. And we didn't. And maybe it was then that they walked up, but they couldn't have stepped anywhere. They had to stay in that exact same spot for 20 minutes. So either there was some really loud ghosts outside the door.
Right.
Or somebody was just peeping and being weird.
Right. Either way, we heard them the same time, I'm assuming, whatever was in the chair and by like the coat hooks or whatever, by the robes. I assume we all heard the same thing at the same time because they dipped right then.
We heard a very loud creaking outside of the door. You and I both looked at the door, looked back at the Connect, gone.
Yep.
So it's just interesting timing of that event.
For them to disappear. They'd been there for 20 plus minutes, and then all of a sudden...
we hear somebody outside the door, and then they're gone.
And they vanish. Never to return.
Weird. So after that happened, we did a little bit more debunking. We couldn't get the figures to show back up. We tried, to no avail. We then decided that we were going to now turn on the spirit box and start doing some of that. And then this is where we explained our equipment.
Yep.
And we have a clip of that just because we're like, I can't believe we didn't do this in a live stream. So we're just going to insert us doing that here as proof that we actually did it. Because I feel like after we actually explained the stuff, then things started picking up.
If you're still in here, this box will use your voice and translate it over to us. We're not exactly sure how it works. We know that your energy, if you save it up and put all of your energy into it, you will be able to talk to us through this machine here. And it comes over white noise. It sweeps radio frequencies so that it can use your energy and we can hear you. So we know it's a little bit complicated, but we'll be patient with you if you're patient with us, and we really would like to speak to you today. And we know that you were already here. We'd love it if you pop back in, but we're gonna get started now. At this point, we got our first real voice on the spirit box. Had a lot of interference at first, but we did get a clip, and I'll play it for you right now, and then we can talk about what we think that it's saying or what it might be saying, and then we'll play it again for you.
No way.
Obviously, the soundbite is before we both say in unison, "No way." But it sounds like it's either saying big house or brick house. Either one would be accurate because
It was big and it was brick.
it's a big brick building. So we're going to play it again for you. Let us know if you hear something different.
No way.
At this point, we keep asking questions, and in the next clip, you'll hear me ask, "Were you just sitting in our chair?" And we got a response. Take a listen. "Were you just in here sitting in our chair?" To me, it sounds like we get a response that says yes.
Yeah, we both heard that.
I will play it again for you right now. "Were you just in here sitting in our chair?" In the next clip, you will hear me attempting to coax our spirit friend to
Or beg, you know.
or beg, whatever, it's fine, to come back and sit in the chair. And we get a response. To me, it sounds like it says, "Here." I will play it right now, and I'll play it twice. "Do you think you could come back and sit in the chair?" Please do. "Do you think you could come back and sit in the chair?" Please do. Once again, you will hear me politely requesting that the entity comes back and sits in our chair.
Again.
I really wanted it to, because it was so
cool.
It was so cool, and I really wanted it to happen again, and here's that clip right now. Could you come back and sit in the chair?" To me, it sounds like a man responds, "Okay." Like, "Okay, yeah, I will." Plot twist,
They don't.
he did not come and sit in our chair again. So that's kind of a bummer.
Probably because he was mad that you kept asking about it.
I was being pushy. Whatever, it's just who I am. It's fine. The next clip is one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we were like, okay, we're just going to listen. And we just kind of sat and listened for a few minutes. We didn't ask any questions. Like I said, we were just listening. And we didn't hear this in the moment.
And I just want to note, places like the National House Inn, with a lot of history, have residual energies.
Right. I think we've explained that in like a previous episode. Residual is basically like imprints of what they did every single day.
It's not going to be intelligent it will not always be
Yeah.
intelligent responses. Sometimes you will hear conversations that you are not a part of. And sometimes sometimes you can hear like phantom train whistles.
Yep.
Just like really spiritual things pressed into time that you can't interact with.
Right. So, like, if you ever watched a ghost show, they'll get, usually at this time at night, they'll see an apparition walk up the stairs. Or they'll see an orb float across this hallway, this time of day, whatever. And that's what it is. It's just
reliving.
This person walked this path his entire life, and they're just...
doing it in the afterlife also.
Yeah. So that's what it is.
Yeah.
So we think this next clip could be a residual snippet. When we heard this in evidence review, we were like, what the heck does that mean?
Right.
Like, we wrote it down. We saved the clip because we're like, that's a really clear clip. I don't know what it means.
Right.
And then we looked it up.
So we'll play the clip for you right now. And then we'll tell you what we think it says and the history behind
Why?
what we think it says. Yeah. So
Here we go.
Take a listen.
Eyeball?
That's what it sounded like it said. You can tell that Sarah thinks it says eyeball.
Because it was like in the moment, it sounded like it said eyeball.
Yeah.
It was like, that was so clear to me. On a listen back.
It sounds like it's saying highball. And I wanted to look it up because, for one, I don't know what that means.
Right.
But it sounded very like exclamation-y.
Highball.
Yeah. So
And to me, highball means you threw a high pitch in softball.
I thought of like pool or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about sports or whatever.
So we looked it up, and we almost shit our pants. Well, you almost shit your pants, and then I got really freaked out because you were freaking out and you wouldn't tell me what it meant.
Because I couldn't gather myself.
So a highball was and you can still order it today, a very popular drink from the 1800s, typically made from soda water and whiskey. So we're like, okay, that's great. That fits the time period. That's crazy. Gets better. They were typically associated with the American railroad system.
Which, if you remember,
from the beginning of this episode,
the National House Inn and Marshall, Michigan are both highly affiliated
with the American railroads.
Yep.
So we lost it. We read that and we were just... I think it was a good 5 minutes that we were sitting here freaking out.
Because I had never before heard of a highball. I didn't know what that was.
Neither. I didn't know that it was, like I said, I thought of softball, like play ball.
I thought of, same. And when I Googled highball, the first thing that came up was this whiskey and soda water, or whiskey and ginger ale is how you can have it now. But I imagine in the 1800s, it was hard to come across ginger ale, if it existed. I don't know.
Right. Well, and whiskey was a very common thing to have.
And soda water is cheap, I'm assuming.
I mean, it's cheap now. Why wouldn't it be then?
Right. So, interesting. Not saying that it was... maybe it wasn't. But here's the thing. Maybe it wasn't. There's too many... At first, we were just like... It fits. Well, at first we were just like, oh, that's cool. That's fine. Whatever.
It's a drink from the time period. That's cool.
Right. And then I found a website. I literally typed in the history of highballs. And that's when it told us that it came from like a term that they use on the American railroads. And so bringing it all together, full circle.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody was exclaiming like, I want a highball, or,
or give me a highball.
Right. Because, I mean, as far as we could tell, history-wise, there was not a bar in that building. However, it was luxury apartments. Maybe there was a bar in... And
it was an inn, too. Like, it was an inn, then it was changed in a bunch of things, and then it was an inn again. So, there's a kitchen in there now.
Right. And there was... The railroad workers lived there for some time. I think it was like a
rail house. Yeah.
Right. So, maybe... After a long day working on the railroad, somebody's like, what do you want me to pour you?
Working on the railroad. Sorry, I had to do it.
Well, it's like, can I pour you a drink, Johnny?
Highball. Yeah.
Who knows? Thought it was super interesting.
We don't believe in coincidences.
No. There is not a single thing that is a coincidence in life, and I stand by that forever. So, that's interesting.
What's really interesting is right after we hear this, and I think this is eyeball, the very next question that you ask is about prohibition.
So, maybe I'm a psychic?
I think you're a psychic.
Maybe I just like read the room with my third eye, and I was just like, what about alcohol, guys?
Yeah. And it was, we didn't get a response to that question. I mean, but the timing
of it's interesting.
When we thought it said eyeball and not highball, it was just cool. Like in retrospect, I'm like, wow, that's cool.
That might have been a coincidence.
Yeah.
What else?
Maybe coincidences do exist.
So I'm going to insert that clip again for you here.
And tell me it doesn't say highball.
Yeah, you
Come
can't.
on.
You can't. I wish that you could, but you cannot.
Highball?
That's what someone like it said. If you remember from earlier in the episode, we mentioned that the National House Inn and Marshall, Michigan were known stops on the Underground Railroad.
Yeah, fun fact, they actually had, I think, like, pretty recently in the last, like, 5 to 10 years, they were doing updates on the building, and they had discovered in the basement hidden rooms that are more than likely were used as hidden rooms to hide slaves.
Yep. So in the next clip, you're going to hear me ask about the Underground Railroad. And I think we got a response. Did you come here on the Underground Railroad?
Or did you help with the Underground Railroad?
If you were here on the Underground Railroad, I promise you that we're safe to talk to. I will play that clip for you again, but you can hear me say, did you come here on the Underground Railroad? And there's 3 responses, and it sounds like we get a, yeah, and then like a very emotional, yeah, and then me.
That's what we think it says. Like at the end, it says me.
In like a male's voice.
Yeah.
But the other 2 sound very feminine.
And one sounds like it's crying.
And one sounds like it's like, yeah. And that's why at the end I was just like, if you came here on the Underground Railroad, I know you might not be super trusting. Mm-hmm. But
which, in hindsight, we should have said at the beginning.
Right. It didn't cross my mind at that point because we hadn't asked questions about it yet. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to say, just so you know, we are safe to talk to.
Right.
Like, we're not going to rat you out. We go farther past where I cut it, but like we're very sorry that this happened, that this had to happen to you. We're safe to talk to. You can trust us. We promise you. So I'll play that clip again for you right now. Did you come here on the Underground Railroad?
Or did you help with the Underground Railroad?
If you were here on the Underground Railroad, I promise you that we're safe to talk to. Leading up to the next soundbite, I don't really know what we were talking about. You can hear us mumbling about something, but we're not even sure what we were talking about.
Right. We weren't asking a question, that's for sure. We were talking to each other.
Right. And then we got just like a random, go ahead.
Yeah, and it was clear, too.
Right.
I heard something else in the moment. You, in the moment, said, I thought it said go ahead.
Yeah. And we don't know what we're supposed to go ahead and do.
Right.
Because we weren't speaking, I don't even think about necessarily
anything.
That.
Yeah.
And then you could hear me say, with a lot of emotion, that no one's going to believe us because none of this stuff started happening until after the live stream. Because you can hear me go, it's working now.
Yeah.
No one's going to believe us.
Like referring to the fact that the voices were getting so much clearer now than they were on the live stream.
Right.
Like on the live stream, we were struggling to make out words. But there's a few places where either you or I heard exactly what they said. And when we listened back on during evidence review, that's exactly what it said.
Yep.
So apparently just explaining what our equipment does
is the key.
I'm here.
So go ahead or something. It's working now. And everybody's going to think that we're lying about it because we're doing that.
We're doing it live right now.
I'm like,
so we had the Connect going still, and we're still trying to get things to show up on the Connect. And I asked you to back up a little bit. I'm like, can you just back up a little bit? Probably because I couldn't see your full frame in the Connect, something. I'm telling you to back up. And then you hear in the spirit box what we think says, wait. And I don't think we heard it in the moment.
I don't think so either.
But we heard it upon evidence review, and we're like, why can't I back up?
Right.
Like, what was I supposed to be waiting for?
What am I waiting for?
So we'll play that for you here.
Yep, we'll play it twice.
Back up just a little bit. There you go. Back up just a little bit. There you go.
We placed the 2 chairs in the room right next to each other. I was sitting in one. And at this point, I was like, hey, do you want to come sit in the chair with me? Yet again, begging for
Come
whoever it
sit
was.
in this chair.
Sit in the damn chair already. And I don't get a response, but you can hear a mumbling. And it's not mechanical like the noise that the spirit box makes or whatever. It's very clearly mumbling or conversation.
And we've heard that when we did, I mean, we heard that a few times in the moment as well. But when we were doing evidence review, this was like the 3rd or 4th time that we heard a section of what sounded like someone's conversation. And with two or more voices, like we would hear different tones come through. And so we wanted to insert a clip of it just because this is what we think residual conversation sounds like. Like we're picking up on something. It's not really answers to our question. It's just talking.
You can't, none of it's decipherable.
It's all just, like I said, mumbling. You can't hear it.
But it like the sound of it like goes up and down like how your voice sounds in a conversation.
It's got inflection and tone.
Right.
We just don't know what it says.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
So we'll insert that here and I'll play it twice for you. We had our EMF detector running the whole time. And up until this point, it had not done anything. Not even really, I think maybe one time when we had the figures in the room.
And maybe a few times in the live stream, I think it went off. But other than that, it was pretty dead.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
all right. Well, we weren't getting anything on the Connect, despite your begging. Nothing was showing up. So that's the EMF started spiking a little bit, and we decided that we were going to do a pendulum session. And we introduced this little piece of equipment, I think in your apartment episode, we first talked about it. I use pendulums, not on my everyday life, but on a regular basis. I really like pendulums.
Definitely use them more than me.
But
recreational.
Yeah. But you were the more in tune one, I would say, with spirits in general. Borderline
You're
psychic.
more spiritual.
Yeah.
And I'm
more sensitive to ghosts.
Yeah.
So when you think of the world, she's a spiritual person. That fits me. But you are more ghosty.
Right.
You have more in tune with the ghosts. So you do the pendulum because I think it fits better.
Yeah.
But we've started bringing these on our investigations because we've gotten a little bit of answers with them. It's a cool thing to do, and it's something that we both enjoy using. And I want to look into dowsing rods too. Now that we're on the topic,
They're only like $20.
we're gonna buy them. We're gonna buy them. This is the point where we're getting EMF spikes. We're not getting anything on the Connect. We're going to switch gears a little bit. So we opened a pendulum session. And I think we also talked about this in our last investigation episode where you ask a question that you know is true. And I always just say, show me yes, and then show me no. And the pendulum will move. If you've never seen anybody use a pendulum, you should. It's pretty freaking cool. So the next clip is we're talking about the show me yes, show me no. And you do your way where you ask a question you know is true.
And a question I know that is not true.
And a question you know is not true to get the no. And we didn't hear it in the moment. But again, upon evidence review, we found something kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to play it for you, and then we'll tell you what it says.
Am I a 26-year-old female? Okay, a circle is yes. Okay.
I'm gonna get off the bed because I'm gonna move.
A circle is very much yes. Okay. So I ask the question, am I a 26-year-old female? That's now a lie because I had a birthday, so now I'm 27.
Old!
I don't even want to talk about it. But when I said, am I a 26-year-old female, the pendulum started swinging in a big circle. Mm-hmm. Very, very much a circle, I think is what I said in the clip.
Yeah.
And right after I say that, you hear a man's voice, very deep man's voice, come through. Sure.
Yeah. So nonchalantly, like, that's what you want to be. That's what you want to be.
If that's what you are, then that's on you.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And right after that, I said, am I a 47-year-old male? Or something like that. I cut that part out. But...
a very obvious, not true question.
Yeah. And so then it swung back and forth instead of in a circle. Mm-hmm. So that was my yes answer and my no answer. Yes, circles, no, back and forth.
And for those of you who haven't heard our last investigation episode or don't know what a pendulum is, it's basically usually a crystal on the end of a chain or a rope or whatever, and you drape it over your hand and you stay completely still. You want to be in a meditative state before you do it, so you're not moving around and jittery,
or calm or whatever.
Yeah, and shaking. And you just sit pretty still, and you ask yes or no questions. And that's the purpose of asking show me yes, show me no, or asking, a very obvious true or false question, so that when you do ask the yes or no questions, the spirits are able to move the pendulum. Or if you use it for divination, with the universe, the energy, you can use it to find out other questions.
And you might be thinking, well, how do we know that you didn't move it? Well, you're gonna have to take my word for it.
Yeah. And whenever we do this, and you'll always say, no, I was moving, and we'll redo it.
Yep. Like, no, I was breathing weird, or I was thinking about it too hard, or
and
whatever.
we always do it on video, so we can watch it back and be like, okay, you definitely breathed heavy, that's why it went there.
Right.
And I'm never near you when this happens, because usually we're sitting on a bed.
You got off of the bed, so I didn't move it.
So I'm usually not touching you, I'm away from you, so I don't mess it up or anything.
Right. And I don't really have a reason to lie about it, so just trust me.
Right.
Just trust me. I wasn't moving. I mean, obviously, here's the thing. Obviously, I moved a little bit, but not intentionally, because it's the energy flow.
Right. And there's times where it's completely still.
Yeah, and there's sometimes it changes directions.
We have a clip like that where it's like, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but it completely changes directions and changes its answer. And like I said, there's times where it's completely still and we don't get any answer.
Yep.
And so that's kind of like, that's our word.
Right.
Like, sometimes it moves and sometimes it just doesn't.
I think there was even a question that I really wanted an answer to and it didn't move. So that was disappointing. Should have faked it. Now, we don't have clips for all of our pendulum findings. We have clips for some of them because we did get some spirit box answers while we were using it.
Yeah, so we had the spirit box going, but we decided that we were just going to talk about the questions that we asked during the pendulum session, and then if we had anything come through during that, we were going to insert them. And we have a few.
Yeah. So one of the first questions that we asked was this building used during the Underground Railroad? And it was a solid yes.
Yep, solid yes.
Big circles. I remember that one specifically. Nothing on the spirit box for that one. And then we asked, was this basement used to hide slaves? And then circles again.
There was a part, when we asked this question, there was a blip on the spirit box that we thought said slaves, but it was so unclear that
we can't substantiate it in any way.
That's what we thought it said in the moment.
Yeah. So that's why we didn't include it, because we can't.
It wasn't clear enough to be like, that definitely says this.
Right. Shortly after, there was kind of a pause in between that question and our next question. And during that pause, we heard this. We hear a pretty clear here. We're not sure if that's in response to our previous question or if it's just a random,
hey, I'm here.
Hey, if we're taking attendance, I am here. I don't know. But in the next clip, I say, are there any former slaves in the building right now? And the pendulum goes in an oval shape, which...
yeah, it's a weird...
So to me, that means uncertainty, maybe not necessarily about the answer, about sharing the answer.
Yeah. Yep.
Is kind of, that's how I took it anyway.
And that's how we've taken weird shapes like that in the past as uncertain to share.
Right. So...
Or not, I don't know if I can trust you enough to share that yet. You know?
Right. Like, is this a safe space? I don't know. But while that's happening, right afterward, the spirit box says what we think. Says yes.
It gives you away.
Yeah. So we'll play that for you here and let us know if you hear something different. Are there any former slaves in the building right now? Immediately after that, I say, were you a former slave? And the pendulum swung in a circle, very evidently in a circle, and then immediately switched back and forth.
Yeah, and I we don't have the clip of it, but because there wasn't anything on the spirit box when it happened, but in the moment, I say, I just watched that switch directions because it was a circle, stopped mid-circle, and swung straight back and forth. It was crazy to watch, and that's sometimes what happens with pendulums.
Right. And so I don't know. To me, that's less about uncertainty.
And more like, you can't know that.
That's kind of how I feel. It's like, I feel like there's one of two things happening. One, someone slipped up and said, yeah, and like, oh shit, you can't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Or two, someone felt comfortable and someone else was like, no.
No, you can't do that.
You can't tell them that or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. It's one
Either
of
way,
two.
we got a very weird response.
Very weird. Why? There's no really, I'm trying to think of another explanation other than
those two
things, but I really don't know. Maybe uncertainty, but for me, uncertainty is an oval. Like maybe yes, maybe
it's not a clear answer and then a complete opposite answer.
Right. Or two people answering.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? There's only a
Someone's
few
fighting for the
possibilities.
reins.
Right. After that, I said, are you a woman? Didn't move.
Yep.
Then I said, are you a man? The pendulum said yes, and then it stopped and changed directions.
Again.
So maybe two people answering, like, yes, I'm a man. Somebody else was just like, no, I'm not a man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't know why else it would change. And then I asked, did you stay in the basement? Nothing.
No response.
That's the question I really wanted an answer to.
And that was the question that it stayed pretty still for a hot minute. Like we waited we wait between questions, obviously.
Right. And then I asked again because I am who I am and I'm pushy. And then we got, I think it was a very small yes.
Yeah, it was like a tedious yes.
Like a little dainty mini. It was definitely a circle, but it was very small.
Yeah. And we've always interpreted that in the past as being shy.
Right.
Or timid.
Yeah.
Or who knows? Maybe that's not. Maybe any yes is just a yes.
Here's the thing. I think it's always a yes, but maybe it's just, how do we explain the difference in speed or force? Because sometimes the force is different.
That happened with your investigation as well, where we're doing the pendulum session, and you asked, do you like Artie? And it was a big yes.
Big circle.
And then we asked, do you like us? Or do you want to talk to us? And it was a very small yes. Like, how do you explain that? You know?
Right. Like, you guys are fine. Your dog is who I like.
Yeah, your dog's great.
There's got to be some variable or factor.
Or influence or reason for that, you know?
Right. To me, it's not just coincidental. So in the next clip, I wanted to kind of confirm what the pendulum had said when we asked, did you stay in the basement? So I asked again because
you are who you are.
A little bit of peer pressure. And we got an answer. And I'm just...
And this is a weird clip. And we really want somebody's opinion on this.
I'm just going to play it and then we'll dissect it. Did you stay in the basement? So I asked, did you stay in the basement? And I asked that because, like, as we said before, there was found to be a hidden room in the basement. National House Inn is known to be a stop on the Underground Railroad. So they did harbor runaway slaves on their way north. That's what we know. And so while Sarah and I would say in the bunk, because we're from Michigan, we sound like Gretchen Whitmer painfully.
Yeah, we're not a fan.
We're borderline Canadian sounding.
Yeah,
okay?
it's gross.
We sound like we're from Michigan, but somebody who's from the South would say it with a different inflection. And I mean, slaves are from the South and they're from a different time period.
Yeah, 200 years ago.
So there's going to be a different inflection.
Or accent or whatever.
Right. And so I'll play it again for you here. Let us know if you hear something different. Did you stay in the basement? So we kept on doing our pendulum session, and I asked, do you like that we're here talking to you? No response. Pendulum didn't move at all. I asked, do people come to talk to you often? Again,
No response.
no movement, no response. At that point, the EMF detector jumped to 0.03. Not high, but
It was a spike, and it had been quiet for a little bit.
yeah, so we wanted to note that. In the next clip, and we're not really sure if we mentioned it earlier in the episode, if we did not, the National House Inn also went by the name the Facey Hotel at one point. And so my next question was, were you here when this was the Facey Hotel? And I got a pretty solid yes in response, so I will play that here. Were you here when this was the Facey Hotel? We finished with the pendulum at this point, and we were talking about switching to the necrophonic app from the spirit box.
Well, because we had been using the Spirit Box for a while, and we hadn't used the app since the live stream.
Right.
And that was a good 4 or 5 hours.
At least.
Yeah.
So I think I asked you, should we switch to the app?
Yeah, you looked at me and was like, should we switch to the app?
Yeah. And then
We got a
Peanut
response.
Gallery had an opinion on that, and I'll enter it here. Should I switch over to necrophonic app? In the midst of switching over to the necrophonic app, we were asking for the EMF to spike, and we got a response.
Yeah, we had a few, 0.01, 0.02, and we kept trying to, get it to go.
And we think it was something doing it because it hadn't been doing it.
It hadn't been doing it, and it was in the same spot.
Well, we did, I don't think we mentioned this earlier, that we did an entire EMF sweep
Yeah, we
of
do
our
that.
room.
We do that on every investigation.
Yeah, and there was nothing. No
Nothing.
spikes.
No
spikes. So it wasn't anything electrical.
Right. And in the midst of that, upon evidence review, while we're listening to, because we listen to everything that we record, as painful as it is.
It is the most painful.
We listen to everything. And in the midst of us, can you make that go higher? Can we get another EMF spike? Us talking to it. We get a voice come through in the spirit box that we think very clearly says, get back.
Yep.
And we, no prompt, no question, no nothing. We were just screwing with the EMF detector. So I'll play it for you here.
After we heard that, there was a notable EMF spike. So maybe they
Take it with a
needed
grain of
some
salt.
room. Needed some room.
Give me some space, man.
I gotta boost my energy field really quick. I need room.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. After that, we got something that really there was no context to, but it is so clear.
Right. Like I said, we were in the process of screwing with the EMF. We're getting our stuff around to switch back to the necrophonic app. Just kind of switching to the next part of our investigation. And like you said, there was kind of no context to it. Upon evidence review, we heard this very clearly.
We will insert it for you now. So that was one of only maybe a few clips.
We got some things on the necrophonic app during the live stream, but in our, because at this point it was really late. So like I said, we got a few clips or a few voices come through on the necrophonic app clearly during the live stream, but at this point it was super late. We were tired. We were kind of nearing the end, wrapping stuff up. And this, again, no context, just here it is.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it might have been another one of those residual things. Since we've had experiences like that throughout the whole night of just random mumbling, maybe we just caught a really clear portion of a random conversation.
And it sounds like it's saying it was recent.
Yeah, so clearly.
I'll play it again for you right now. Enjoy. we don't know what the hell the next clip is saying.
We've listened to it approximately 800 times and I'm sick of hearing it.
But it's multiple,
something.
It's multiple syllables. And there's no way that it's not saying something, okay?
Yep.
I'm going to play it. We're going to unpack it, and then I'll play it again. So the male voice is not important in this clip. It's the female's voice. I have listened to it a million times. I have denoised it. I have tried
We've enhanced the audio.
I've tried everything, and it says one of any number of things.
Yep.
It's surrounding it.
It's around again.
It's around again. What else do I think? I thought I said something earlier.
I think it ends with again. Like, I clearly hear the N sound at the very end of the clip.
And I think it's saying, like, it's surrounding it. Like, with a heart, like a harder G. Like, it's surrounding it.
Yeah.
So, let us know what you think.
Maybe that was a response to it was recent, guy. Maybe they're having a conversation. Maybe
it was recent. They're
surrounding again. It's around again. I don't know.
For the love of God, please tell us.
Someone tell me what it says.
Because
and agree with me.
No. Never agree with Sarah. That's the wrong answer.
Come on.
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
We have tried so hard to remember what the hell we were doing. Because this is something I would say, not you.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I know what I said.
I know we were very tired and a little drunk.
That's true. This was the end of the night. And I said, I look like a cat. Why? Not sure.
You weren't wearing a hat?
No.
Or you didn't have your hair up in a weird way?
No.
No idea. But if you listen to it, you hear her say, I look like a cat. And then it goes, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the end of the clip, you hear, cat. And as you can tell, we find that so funny.
It's so funny.
And we've laughed so hard.
I'm going to play it for you twice.
Enjoy. You don't have to listen to the blooper section for this funny.
No, we're going to leave this one right into the main episode.
I look like a cat. Did I stand up? I look like a cat. Did I stand up?
There's much debate about the next
You're wrong.
Okay, we listened to the evidence with headphones in.
Yeah, we always do.
And we strongly recommend. We should just start putting that in the beginning.
Please use headphones.
Please use headphones when you listen to this. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
Now, we listened to this with headphones in, and I swear it sounds like somebody's pushing a piano key. Or strumming an instrument of some kind, like one note.
And I think you're fucking nuts.
Right.
As a musician, you're nuts.
Well, I'm not a musician.
No, I'm a musician. I think you're nuts. Because to me, it sounds like somebody's going like, ah. Like, it sounds like a tonal voice.
Right.
Just somebody yelling.
When I hear it in headphones, I could not budge about it being
I even walked my
piano
ass
key.
over. Because we're in the basement, and my office is in the basement. I walked my ass over to my piano, and I was plunking on keys to try to get you to realize.
But here's the thing. When I listen to it on the computer now, I can see how you would think.
Because it is a voice.
But when I had it with, there was no question in my mind with headphones. It was maybe not a piano, but some kind of instrument note.
And I just think it sounds like some dude going like, ah. Like, it's tonal to me. It's got a tone.
So, we're going to play it.
And you know what? If you side with her, you're wrong.
If you side with Sarah, get lost. So we were walking back to our room and walking up the stairs. Admittedly, I was not paying attention to the Necrophonic app. I had my headphones in and I was walking up the stairs, just going back to the room.
Yeah, and I was focused on going to bed.
Right. So we didn't hear this in the moment. I heard it upon playback, but I'm going to play it for you now. It sounds like you can hear us creaking up the stairs, bunch of creaks up the stairs, and then you can hear leave, a pause, what sounds like my clothes rustling, and then
Leave.
So we did not leave that night. So hopefully we didn't piss anything off.
Yeah.
For whenever we decide to go back. But here's that clip now. That was our last clip of the evening.
Our last audio clip. The nighttime while we were sleeping was very active.
And interesting.
Interesting.
So I have security cameras in my house. And when we go on investigations lately, we've been bringing the security camera. It's got night vision.
And it can, like, if it detects motion, it'll auto record.
Yep. It'll auto record 20-second clips, 10-second clips, whatever it needs to be. So we put the night vision on, put it in the corner of our room. So it kind of like overlooked our bed and really the entirety of the room. The only thing it couldn't see was the inside of the bathroom.
Yeah.
And we got a fair number of clips.
I think
10?
You saved 10 videos.
Yeah.
Well, one of them was me dropping my phone on my face. And we've laughed about that. I'm going to post it on Instagram because it's funny. You're so welcome.
Funny.
Because I just give up. It just falls.
We're just sitting there just shooting the shit, playing on our phones or whatever before bed, like laying in bed.
You're sitting up and then I drop it and you look at me like, what the hell happened? And then we just die laughing. It was like 2 a.m. Leave us alone.
So that's one of the clips that'll be up. But we have about 10 other clips or 9 other, however many.
Yeah.
We have a handful of other clips that are unexplainable. Let's say that.
And here's the thing. I'm going to throw this out there right now. We did not see a single bug in that entire, not to mention it was snowing. It was cold. Too cold for bugs. Bugs are hibernating or whatever the fuck they do. Die off.
Yep. I will also note that there were vents in the room.
Yes. Yep.
But never once did I feel airflow out of them.
Yeah. Nor did we see dust anywhere. You and I, both previously being housekeepers, are very aware of our surroundings when it comes to cleanliness.
I mean, we check the bed. We
check the mirror. We rub our hands over. We're dumb. We're like hotel's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Don't look at my house though. Sorry about it. So every time we go anywhere, the first thing you do is check the bed.
Yep.
And the first thing I do is check the bathroom. And I just, because I'm curious, you know?
Yeah.
We didn't see, it was so clean in there. And like I said, that's something as previous housekeepers, we would definitely bitch about.
Yep.
It was so clean in there. But surprisingly, there was lots of things moving on the security camera.
Yes.
Lots of changing of directions and slowing down and speeding up.
And very blatant light up circles.
Orbs? Lex, are you talking about orbs?
I could be. I'm not gonna
They're the orbs. There's no way. There's no way they're not.
There's some that I'm like, maybe it's not. But there's some where I'm like, oh no.
Orb.
That is an orb.
Yep.
There is no question about it.
There's one clip, and I can't wait to post it, that literally stops and shoots right towards the camera. Slowly.
And there's a noise.
Yes. And
there's
you
like a
hear
little knock
noise.
sound, and then it just like...
And it just appears, and then it appears off to the side, and then stops and comes right towards the camera. Crazy. You also were... I was knocked out. I was out for the count. You were so hot.
I woke up, and I think you'll be able to see the timestamp on the camera. Maybe you won't. Who knows? I woke up, and the camera was an hour ahead.
Yes, because that was...
Daylight savings weekend.
Yep.
So the camera was wrong. It was 3 a.m.
It's interesting. The witching hour.
I don't know. I don't even know how that worked. I think what happened is that it like auto put it ahead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't change the time on it. I think the clock like auto fast forwarded an hour. So it said 4 a.m. on the timestamp. It was really 3.
Yeah.
According to daylight savings time, whatever.
Yeah.
But I was so hot. It was like 4:06 or 3:06, whatever. And I was drenched in sweat. And like, it was cold in there. It was 68 degrees.
Well, we had,
something.
even when we were doing our investigation, we both had sweaters on the whole time.
Me too, the whole time.
And You can see I'm sleeping like a child next to you. I'm out. I'm like curled up in a ball under the blanket. I never once took the blanket off, I don't think. I was fine.
Yeah, I was
I think I woke up once, and that was when you actually got out of bed to get water.
because I was dying. My body felt like it was 1,000,000 degrees. And it's interesting because there's a clip where there's like an unexplained
Thingy.
ball that like comes from near my body. And then right after that, I lift my head up and I look around.
Yep.
And I'm visibly paranoid, which I was in the moment too, but you can see me like wipe sweat off of my face.
You like shift your hair around.
I lifted my hair off my neck and put it on the pillow. I was so hot.
And I was fine.
And you could see me looking around, and I felt like something was standing behind me in the bed.
Well, and our bed was against a wall, but like there was room on either side of us to get up and move around.
Right.
And the camera was up and kind of above you. It was on a shelf. So there wasn't much room for somebody to be behind you. So if there was anybody behind you, they would have been really close.
Yeah, it was. I did not feel good. It was I was very hot, and there's multiple clips where I'm like wiping off my cheek.
Well, and it's important to note that you didn't feel sick or anything.
No.
Before or after.
Just miserable. But there's a clip where I get up, and this one is really interesting to me because there's a clip that looks like there's like a dust storm.
Oh yeah, like it looks like somebody had just turned on a vent that they hadn't turned on in months.
And dust blew everywhere. But like at this point, I was like sneaking out of bed because I don't like to wake up people when they're sleeping.
And so I could sleep through a fucking hurricane. So
I'm like daintily picking up the comforter and moving it, like with 2 fingers, moving it over and like slipping out of bed.
And as you're delicately getting out of bed, there's a dust storm.
Right. And it's not moving in the right direction.
It's not like you like shook the blanket up.
Right. I was barely.
Because we watched the clip and I'm like, what are you doing? And you're like, I didn't want to wake you up.
Daintily moving it. And so long story long, I'll conclude it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of clips where there is something unexplained happening. There are definitely clips of orbs.
Definitely. Without a doubt. So we're going to post those all on our social media. Like I said, I'm going to have a whole Facebook like album of all, because there's so many pictures and so many videos of the security camera. And I'll post a few of them on Instagram and stuff, but the bulk of the evidence is going to be on Facebook.
Yeah. So make sure to check us out on all of our social medias. We're on Instagram at Sunday Night Spookies, on Twitter at Sunday Spookies, and on Facebook at the Sunday Night Spookies Podcast.
We're also going to have a few links in our description box. All of them are affiliate links, which means that if you use those links to purchase any good or service from those links, we do get a small commission back. Not anything crazy. All of these goods and services are available without using our links. But you're going to see a link for Instacart. I hate grocery shopping. I hate people. I hate being in public spaces. So I love using Instacart. It's basically a grocery delivery service, and they've now expanded to add stores like Best Buy. And I think even I saw Sephora on there the other day. Yep. Like, just crazy. But if you use our link, the first order you order over $35, you get free delivery. And you can get your groceries delivered in as little as an hour on a good day. There's also going to be a link for Buzzsprout, which is the podcast hosting website that we use. And it's an awesome website. It keeps track of absolutely everything, our stats, our social media links. We obviously post our episodes from there. It is a great website, all encompassing for podcasters. So if you'd like to use that, you can go ahead and use our link for that. We also have a few links for our Amazon affiliates, where we have our EMF detector listed and our spirit box listed. Those are pieces of equipment we take on every single investigation. They never fail us. 2 of our favorite pieces of equipment to use. So if you want to purchase those, you can do so there. We also have our link tree linked as well, which is basically a link for links. You click on one link and it takes you to a page of all of the links associated with the Sunday Night Spookies podcast, which is pretty cool, I think. And then you also see a support the show link, which takes you directly to our Cash App. We are 2 college girls who are broke and running a podcast, buying the equipment, especially for the things that we have coming for you in 2021, and spending money to go stay at hotels and do all this stuff, gas money, whatnot. it can get pretty pricey. So if there's a location that you really want us to go see and you want to help us out by donating, please do so. If you feel like it. Obviously, everything is just amazingly appreciated. Even by listening, you're helping us out so much.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Sunday Night Spookies.
Join us next week for our end of season 1, episode 20, where we're just going to shoot the shit. We're going to talk about some of our favorite locations, some of the funny moments that happened at those locations, answer a few questions that we've gotten. It's going to be a good one, so don't miss it.
New episodes are released every Sunday evening. Thanks so much for listening, and as always,
Stay spooky.
The male's voice really isn't important here.
Yeah, I don't know what this is.
As is in life. I can't say that. Okay,
all right,
testing.
Okay, shut up.
No, we have to test it first.
It's fine.
No, we have to make sure we both sound right. No, because remember last time we didn't test it and we sounded stupid.
We did test it.
Anyway, testing.